Hello my loves, welcome to another installment of testing all of my eyeshadows. I am realizing that we are getting very close to the end, which is super exciting. And honestly, I can't wait for it to be over. I'm so over it. But today I'm going to update you on the recent eyeshadow palettes that I have been trying to use. I have Pat McGrath, only two. Oh, nearly dropped it. I've got Suva, only two, and I have Sigma, only two. So let's go through it. I think we might actually start with my Suva palettes. So let's start with the Rose Period actually. So this is the Rose Period palette. It's very pretty. I like it. Like this color here, chiffon, really grabs my attention straight off the bat. Gorgeous. But that's kind of where it ends with this palette. So I'm going to be very frank with you guys. I used this once and then I was like, I don't want to use this anymore. I just don't see myself really reaching for this. And the reason is because I feel like it's not that I don't like pink eyeshadows, it's that I don't like these kinds of pink eyeshadows. I really like sort of dusty, greyish, like mauvey type shades. This one here is Sizzly, and when I look at it in the pan, I'm like, I feel like that's where I'm going. It's kind of getting into like a dusty purple shade, but then when I put it on, it's very not that. It's brighter than I need it to be. This shade here is another one that really catches my eye in the palette. It's Pastel. It's not pastel at all. That's a shade there. I think it's really pretty, but again, I've talked a lot about eyeshadows that are too dark for my eyes, and that gets into that territory. It'd be in bad faith for me not to mention Floral, which is a beautiful, like, you know, sort of burgundy reddish shade. But again, it doesn't, I feel like it comes off a bit more of like a bright magenta on the eye. It looks quite red there, but it doesn't, I don't feel like it translates as much as I want it to. Also, it's very important for me to remember that I am not the eyeshadow lover that I was like 7-8 years ago. My preferences have changed. I prefer something a little bit more subtle. I don't like darker shades. I'm not really leaning into a lot of color these days. So I have to be honest with myself. The other mattes, they're fine, but again, I just feel like it's quite bright. I do like this Sweet Briar shade, which I will swatch for you real quick. So we've got lots of like light matte shades that are a bit pastel. This Sweet Briar shade is really pretty, but again, like, am I going to wear it? Probably not. And then the last matte in the palette is Hues, which is, it's a pretty purple, but you know, I just, look, I think the palette as a whole is really, really, really pretty. It's just not who I am as a makeup girly these days. I am 40. I am also going to be a mum this year. So I need to be realistic about what I'm wearing and what is going on my face. These shimmery shades, bland, boring, not interested. The colors are just whatever for me. Like, I don't really care. I don't gravitate towards them. The finish is not anything that I can't replicate a million times with other eyeshadows in my stash. This one I am sad about. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this is pretty. When I started this project, I talked about not popping out any eyeshadows from palettes or anything like that, and I'm not going to do that. If there is enough in a palette that I'm like totally in love with, I will keep it for those shades, but I'm not going to keep this palette, this gigantic palette, for that one shade, unfortunately. I probably do have something already kicking around in my other palettes that is similar enough to that. So the Rose Period has to go. As for Saffron, I didn't even use it. You can probably tell just by looking at it why that is the case. Again, I do think it's a really pretty palette. It's just not one that I'm gonna wear. I will swatch these shades for you so we can, you know, give it one last farewell. Some beautiful, like, you know, God, they swatch so badly. I will say these do feel dry in the pan, but it is what it is. I like this shade, Cinnamon. I think it's very pretty. This one here, which is Clove, a bit too dark for me. And Paprika. Look, I do love a red. And it's not like I'm never ever going to wear red eyeshadow again. I've got red eyeshadows still in my stash. I just do not need as many as I once had. Moving on to the shimmery shades. These are interesting. They have like quite a... they feel almost creamy in the pan when you swatch them. They don't give much. It's giving dull. It's giving flat. I mean, that looks like a matte, but it's not. It's a satin. It just, I don't know, it just looks sad. I'm never gonna wear these. I'm never gonna reach for them. It's not what I want. And that's why I didn't even use it, because I just opened it up and I was like, be for real. Like, you know you're not gonna wear that. Just get rid of it. Suva is a discontinued brand. I believe they closed up, was it last year? Maybe? Or maybe I'm thinking of another brand. I don't know. I'm pretty sure they closed down. And you know, once upon a time I loved these palettes, but that's just not this time. So the Saffron palette is also being decluttered, but my God, they are pigmented. They are so pigmented, they're stuck in my hair. Moving on to Sigma, Warm Neutrals Volume 2. So I was trying to pair this palette with the Pat McGrath Mothership, oh, I don't know, 5. It's Mothership 5. And the reason why I was trying to pair it with that was because I wanted softer, easier for me to wear mattes. And I found myself just doing the same thing over and over. And that was Toasty and Henna. And these shades, like, they're nice. For me, like, I know it's boring, I get it, but that's just the way I wear my makeup these days. It is what it is, and I don't care. Then when I was trying to use this palette sort of on its own as a standalone palette that I would just pull out and use, I was like, I don't want to use any of this. This is boring. So usually what I'd be looking for is nice soft mattes that can just add a tiny bit of definition. They're not too dark because, like, my eyes are already deep set and they're small, so I don't want to make them look more deep set and even smaller. So it was always those two mattes that I was going for. Some other mattes in the palette, this isn't technically a matte, it does have some like micro shimmer in it. So Humble and Passion Fruit. I mean, I'd never wear shades like this. I just don't care for them. This one is quite nice, but also, like, I didn't really know what to pair it with in the palette. And then there's After Hours and Rogue. Now, Rogue's a red. You know, I love a red, but I'm not going to wear it every day. It's not like, you know, a average kind of color that I want to wear these days. And it's beautiful. Like, I do really like it. And this just makes me think of, to be honest, it makes me think of poo. So I wasn't very excited about the mattes. I was like, I'm just going to reach for the same thing every day. And then the shimmers were even more lackluster. So a couple of shades that I just knew I wasn't going to care about was Charmer, Iconic, and Fool's Gold. And these are just kind of like, what is that? Another one that I thought it's going to be too dark is Russet. And this is kind of like a matte with like some micro sparkle in it. I'm not ever going to wear that. Don't care. Then we've got Beaming, Bittersweet, and Iconic. Iconic, just looking at it, I know it's too dark for me. And Beaming and Bittersweet, so generic and run-of-the-mill. I just, like, for me, there is nothing in this palette that's exciting. It's just a snooze fest, and I don't need it in my life. So more than half of the palette, on face value, just looking at it, I knew that I wouldn't actually wear the shades. When I look at it as a whole, I'm like, oh, it's a nice like color layout. I like it. Visually, I like the palette, but objectively, I don't want to wear the majority of the shades. I just don't care about them. So the Sigma Volume 2 Warm Neutrals, it's got to go as well. But again, like pigmented, I feel like the mattes are very, very pigmented in that palette. All right, my next Sigma palette was actually the one that I used first when I started testing everything out in this particular round of products. So this one is a Rendezvous eyeshadow palette. She's long, she's skinny, fairly compact, just 6 shades, 2 mattes, 4 like shimmery, metallic, sparkly, whatever. We'll do the mattes first. We've got Tryst and Bootleg. So Tryst is the lighter shade, Bootleg is the darker one. Perfect. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for in terms of like depth and colors. If there was another color that was similar but different to this one, like similar in the sense of like the depth of color but a different color, I probably would love this palette even more, because it is like there's some shimmer shades in here that I'd be willing to give away basically. But in saying that, I do think that they're quite nice, particularly Moonshine. This is what I'm wearing today actually. I'm wearing Tryst, Bootleg and Moonshine on my eyes, and I just think it's easy, it's pretty, the colors blend super quick. It's like, you know, 2 or 3 minutes and there's no fussing around. So this is Moonshine, which is, you know, a pretty sort of warm, champagne-y nude shade with some light sparkle. This one here is Soiree. I do like this. I could easily just not have this in the palette. I could have something similar to this. This one here is Campfire. I quite like this. A bit more sparkle would make it perfect for me. And this one here is probably the one that I would most easily give up. It's Maverick. However, in saying that, it is a very pretty taupe shade and it has a little bit of that like micro sparkle that Moonshine does. I really like this palette, very easy to wear. It's the kind of thing I would chuck in my suitcase if I was traveling, and I know that I can get a look out of it every day. Even if I am just wearing 3 of the shades, like I don't care. This palette isn't perfect for me by any means, but it's good enough. I like them compact. I don't need a million different choices in a palette. I don't need a desk palette. These days, what I'm looking for is soft mattes that enhance my eye shape and like sparkly soft toppers. That's my vibe, and this palette offers it to me and she stays. Okay, let's move into Pat McGrath. So I have the Mothership Sublime Bronze Temptation here. Look, I'm getting rid of this, but I love the packaging, okay? It's fun, it's cute. I'm a bit torn about whether I just keep it for the memes or not. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, there are 6 shades in here. I'm sure the names are written somewhere, but I don't have them, so I'm just going to swatch them top to bottom, left to right. So there's beautiful champagne shade. There is like a mid-tone matte, which I do like. And then there is this sort of dark foresty green. I think it's really pretty, but like I don't wear those shades. I just do not. Oh gosh, here we go. This is where it's going to get hard, and I may actually end up keeping this. There's a really dark matte, like cool tone brown in there. I don't really care for that. This is stunning and I adore it. It's a duochrome, kind of like earthy old gold to a like bright fuchsia-ish red, and then we have this shade here, which is, again, it's maybe you could call it a duochrome. It's kind of like a peachy nude, like dark peachy nude. I feel like you're not really getting many of those peachy tones, but I feel like there's a warmth in there that is kind of like a peachy orange shade. And then you've got like this sort of gold reflect. These 2 shades I really enjoy, and this one I really enjoy as well. I actually think it makes a beautiful highlighter around the eye area. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm a bit torn because when I was wearing this, I was like, okay, spoiler, I'm keeping this, right? And I was like, I shouldn't keep both because I'm probably never going to wear them. I never reach for them, blah, blah, blah. Now, there's something in this Pat McGrath palette, or there's 3 shades in this Pat McGrath palette that just like tickle my brain so like violently. I'm like, I can't get rid of this. I have to keep it. And apparently there's, let's go over it. So these 3 shades here, the baked shades. This is also a baked shade. I do love this. I will swatch the palette in a minute. But these 3 are the ones that really have like, I can't get rid of it. Recently, I heard that Pat McGrath, the baked formula is gone. It's being discontinued. And while these palettes that are still in her like repertoire will continue to be made, they're not going to be made as a baked formula. And I'm never buying a Pat McGrath palette ever again. Like, it's done. They're too expensive. I mean, never say never. I feel like that's always a bit of a dangerous thing to say in the beauty world. But for me, that's kind of where my brain is at the moment. So when I decided I had to keep this palette, I was like, let's get rid of this one. But now I'm having second thoughts because I'm keeping that palette for 3 shades and I want to keep this one for 3 shades, but she's also smaller. And to be fair, I would 100% wear this as well. So maybe I change my mind. Maybe I keep this. Maybe I keep it. Oh, and then I get to enjoy this cute packaging just a little bit longer. All right, we'll keep that. Let's move on to this. We got to swatch it. She's beautiful. So the Mothership 5, 10 shades. Beautiful palette. I personally think it was her best palette. I do think other people feel the same way about that. We'll do the mattes first. We'll get that out of the way. Look, this one looks okay, but it's a bit iffy. I actually found that the mattes are really pigmented, okay? And I actually found them a little bit difficult to work with because they were more pigmented than I personally like these days. Which, oh man, do you remember the days where pigment was everything? And now I'm like, too pigmented. I can wear all of these. It just depends on, like, you know, how I'm gonna place them. But realistically, if I'm going to use any of them, it's only going to be this one, and I'm probably not going to reach for it. I'm probably going to reach for something else over that, just so I don't have to fuss with the, like, being very careful about how much I use and how much I apply and like blending and stuff like that. Like, I don't really like to fuss with it. When we get into the shimmery shades, so there's one, this is pretty. But I don't think it's anything super special. It's kind of like a creamy white satin shade with a beautiful warm gold reflect to it. It's not sparkly or anything like that, so it's not super exciting. I think it actually looks best when it's applied with like a really sort of fluffy tip brush, like something that's got a lot of like flexibility to it, and it's applied lightly and then it's like buffed into the skin. I think you get like this really nice sort of gold highlight look. I think like that's the best way to use it. Whereas if you're applying it with something a bit more dense, like an eyeshadow packing brush, you get kind of swatch like finish. And I don't think that's where it shines. I think where it really shines is when you've got this beautiful like buffy, like buffing out the base color to get that shimmer. So like putting it sort of on your brow bone and like dusting it in to give you you know, a brow bone highlight and stuff. I think it looks really pretty used in that way. Now, problem is I don't really use that technique a lot anymore, so it's not going to get a lot of use out of me. Then we have a very pretty taupe shade, which does have a micro sparkle in it, and I would use a shade like this. I actually quite like taupe eyeshadows. For me, I actually think it's the easiest way to do a smoky eye without it looking like my eyes are like receding into my face. So there is a chance that I would use that. And you can see it has like, it catches the light quite nicely. It's got some decent light reflect, which is good. This shade here is interesting. It's the gold shade in the palette. It's almost like a pressed glitter. So it does have good reflect and it's got that metallicness to it. I don't know, gold's just not really on my radar a lot at the moment. Not this sort of gold anyway, this sort of like, you know, bordering into that coppery, like orangey, rich yellow sort of shade. Then we have the red. Now the red is pretty magical. So when I had decided I was going to keep this palette specifically for the 3 shades that are coming up next, I was like, there are benefits to me keeping this palette as a whole because there are other shades that I could reach for in this palette. So this is one of them. It's beautiful. It's a gorgeous like metallic red shade. Again, it's got a baked formula, so it's very like, it's very thin. You know, it hasn't got that sort of creamy formula that you might get from other metallics that can look a bit heavy on the eyelid, especially if you are somebody who is maturing or you simply have quite a bit of like looser skin in that area. You might be dealing with crepiness or something like that. When you're using, you know, like metallic shades that have that sort of thick, creamy formula, it can look a bit heavy. Whereas these baked ones, they're really richly pigmented, but they're thin. So I kind of like that. But again, I'm not going to be wearing a red on a daily basis. Don't get it twisted. And I'm not keeping the palette for that. What I am keeping the palette for is this. This is sensational. So all of these shades, again, are a baked formula and they have a like soft translucency base. They are multi-chrome and they sparkle. They sparkle so much. It's so pretty. I'm like a bird, like picking out little bits for their nest. I love it. It's stunning. I think these are some of the prettiest eyeshadows that Pat McGrath has ever had in a palette. And I'll probably keep the palette for the rest of my life for that reason until it's like, you know, growing a fungus or something. Overall, I think the palette is pretty, but again, there are shades in there that I just won't really want to reach for. Like the darker mattes, I just find them difficult to wear. The mid-tone matte, yeah, maybe I'll use it here and there, but realistically, I think like this is what I'm going to be going for when I'm feeling like, oh, you know, I might try something a little bit different today. You know, I might dip my toes into the water. That's when I might be like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do a brow bone highlight, or maybe we'll try like one of these toppers over this shade or this shade. Like, you know, I can see myself occasionally wanting to do that because I do. Occasionally I sort of go outside of the box that I've put myself in and I play around with stuff, but like day to day, I kind of like to do the same thing. So Mothership 5 stays. That means I'm going to be keeping 3 palettes and getting rid of 3. So that puts me at a total of 72 palettes tested. What the hell? 27 decluttered. I feel like that's just not a good number. I'm not really happy with that. I feel like I want that number to be close to 40 or in the 40s, if I'm perfectly honest. Let's have a quick chat about my next palettes. So I'm only introducing 3. These are my tea palettes. I have Too Faced and I have Tarte. So I've got the Sunset Stripped palette. Born This Way Sunset Stripped. Was this a bad palette? I haven't used it in so long. And I've got the Natural Nudes. I feel like this one was the good one and Sunset Stripped was the shit one. Is that right? Also, you know what I realized? Like, I got rid of all of my Too Faced tin palettes. I kind of miss my peach palette, to be honest. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's gone now. And this little guy, cute as a button, from Tarte. It's a Tarte. It's Pro to Go. adorable. I love it. Now, the last of my palettes are like Zoeva. I've got Wet n Wild. I've got Violet Voss. I've got Visart. So I'm thinking what I'll do is, I think there's enough to split it into like 2 videos. So I think I've got 3 videos before I'm done with testing all of the eyeshadow palettes. And then I think I might sit down and spread out all of the palettes that I have left and just have an overview of them and see if there's anything else that I can declutter. But we'll see how we go. We'll just see. We'll give it a shot. I don't know. But I'm going to leave that there, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it. I want to say a massive thank you to my channel members, obviously, and everyone who's watching. Feel free to leave your comments about Pat McGrath palettes. What's your favorite? Have you like decluttered any? Have you kept any specifically for those like special shades? Let me know your thoughts. I want to have a chat. But that's it. I'm gonna go and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye. What was this? That was awkward.